Good evening and welcome to the J Duke Show on the Jumping Instructors Network. Tonight's a very special night, and I want to take a moment to recap. The last 5 weeks has been quite the roller coaster ride. I appeared on a show with Randy, and we had a lot of fun, and she said, hey, do you want to start your own show and have some fun on the network? And said, well, I'm not teaching or coaching or doing any horse shows right now, so yeah, let's give it a try. And the response from the viewers and the fans has been fantastic. In our first month, over 20,000 fans have signed up to watch the show, and I'm really overwhelmed by the response. And I had no idea at that time, we'd be doing something on this grand scale, and no idea on that time we'd be having a special guest like we do tonight with Mclean. First of all, I want to thank Laura and Randy, my producers, and the Jumping Instructors Network for making this all possible. And I also want to thank the team. Very special welcome to Farmvet and Desert International Horse Park. Farmvet is the best place to get your pharmaceuticals and all the needs for your horses. I had a great experience with them this year in Thermal, California. We had a horse that was acting up a little bit, a little out of balance with her hormones, and someone mentioned a very obscure therapy supplement. And I said, I went to Farmvet and I said, hey, have you ever heard of this? Not only had they heard of it, they had 2 different products and they were so knowledgeable about it. Visit farmvet.com, use the J Duke Show discount code, and order everything to make your horse the best they can be. I also want to say a special thank you to Desert International Horse Park. The shows this year were just fantastic. I can't wait to go back. The improvements to the facility, the attitude there was incredible, from walking the security in the parking area to the show staff to the people at the gate to the upper level management. Everyone was so friendly. Everyone walked around that horse show with a big smile, and I definitely will be back, and I hope to see you there as well. So tonight is, when I started this again 5 weeks ago, I didn't really think we would be having a superstar like my guest tonight on the show, but we've evolved pretty quickly, and I'm so happy to welcome my guest tonight. He really needs no introduction. I was going to read off some of his accomplishments, but it's only a 30-minute show, so I ran out of time and ran out of paper. But he is a 2-time Olympic gold medalist, and he is former world number 1. He's ranked number 10 right now in the Longies World Rankings. Megastar, superstar equestrian athlete, Mclain Ward. Welcome to the show.
Well, thanks, Jay. It's great to be here with you. As we were just speaking a few minutes ago, we go back a long way, 25 plus years, and yeah. I've been very close with you and your family. And so it's an honor for me to be here and get a chance to talk with you.
Oh, thank you. Well, it's good to catch up. I haven't seen you this year, obviously, with everything going on. So I guess this is the way we're all communicating these days is through our computers.
It's a new world, and it's nice to be able to share this time with you and all the guests.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. Let's start off. I'm always fascinated by how people get started in show jumping and in the equestrian world. There's always some great family stories there. What was your start? How did you get involved?
Well, absolutely. I mean, you use the word family. I mean, both my parents were professionals, Barney and Chris Ward. My mom was originally from California, my dad from the East. My father was a very successful Grand Prix rider. My mother rode hunters and trained. So, it was available to me and kind of in the daily life right from the beginning. I didn't really know anything else. My parents were divorced when I was quite young. And my first few years riding, even though my mother was very patient, was not great. I wasn't very good. And I didn't take to it so naturally. But as I got a little bit older, and I wanted to be more interested in the jumpers because that was the way I was going to get to spend a lot of time with my father, who was on the road all the time.
Yeah.
And that kind of took off at that point in my early teens, and I got a knack for the jumpers, and also had some success in the equitation. And the career kind of went from there, but it was in the family, on both sides. And now it's kind of come full circle. I'm getting to share it with my family as well as my kids are starting to enjoy the animals.
Yeah, good luck with that. I can tell you it's a lot more nerve-wracking watching it is than riding. That's for sure.
Well, it's funny you say that too, but I was, my wife helps my 5-year-old daughter. We have a
Mhm.
newborn as well. And then Charlie Moorcroft, who does an incredible job with the kids on the ponies in Florida and helps a lot of the professionals' children's. And one day I was trying to give her a little bit of feedback on her heels. And she
Okay.
looked at me and she goes, Dad, you're not the expert of this. And I looked to Lauren, my wife, and I said, I thought I was the expert of one thing in my life, but I am not.
No,
I
no.
found out, So we're
Yeah.
just beginning the journey, but it's already pretty awesome.
Excellent. Excellent. Who would you say, and the journey that you've been on to going to number one in the world, to getting to the top, who's been the biggest influence in your life as far as where you've gotten from a business perspective and as far as from a professional perspective to make who Mclain Ward is today?
Well, again, as you say, it's a 30 or 40-minute show. I could pay gratitude to the people who have helped me become the rider, the horseman, the businessman, and to be honest, the man that I am for hours. There have been so many people who have contributed to who I am, and have not only helped directly along the way, but indirectly. I think the people that jump out ahead for sure are my parents. My riding style comes from my mother, from my mother's teaching.
Okay.
She was a student of the kind of Jimmy Williams California school. She grew up in San Francisco, and was always a great admirer of what Jimmy was teaching. So right from the beginning, basics and position were very important. And then obviously, it's been well spoken of, but my father obviously had just an incredible impact. I rode with my father for 25 plus years,
Mm-hmm.
worked for him, and then eventually took over the business. Yeah, I mean, obviously, my father made incredible sacrifices for my career. He really set the way forward for what he believed I was capable of, and he was my biggest critic, but my biggest fan.
Yes.
And one thing I've spoken a lot about, yeah, one thing, and you knew him very well, right? I mean, you and my dad were quite close.
He was
One thing I've
always
spoken
great
a
to
lot,
me. Yeah, always. He was
yeah, and he felt the world
always a
of you.
gentleman, always polite. I remember meeting him for the very first time. It was at Spruce Meadows, and he was such a larger than life character, and he was just this will to win when he rode and I just loved watching. I was like, oh my god, that guy really wants to win. It was really
No,
intense.
he was a fierce competitor,
Yeah.
and instilled that in me. But he also gave me the opportunity for a more classic education in horses. My father was self-taught. He was a scrapper. He was a seat of the pants. And he was a very smart horseman. He knew how to get the most out of horses, particularly difficult horses. Where, my journey, he made it very different. It was a much easier journey with great teachers. I was forever around the best in the industry in every facet of it, from
Right.
riders and trainers to veterinarians and blacksmiths and across the board. And one great gift that I reflected on a few years back, in my father's time, the institution of the USET in America was quite elitist. It wasn't
Mhm.
for the regular working professional. And there was a lot of his generation that was quite frustrated and jaded about that, and didn't think that highly of the team concept and the Olympic movement. And my father did. He was a huge fan of Burton Emmethy. He felt that was someone that was incredibly ahead of his time and in a great deal of ways.
Mhm.
My father always believed that the best was going to be the direction of the Olympics and representing your country and the team, and he always felt that was going to come full circle. And for me, that was a great gift because I didn't grow up thinking anything other than that was the ultimate goal, and that
Mhm.
really steered my career competitively. Other people that need to be mentioned. Paul Bellier taught me from 7 till 17. Brilliant riding instructor. Contributed tremendously to the rider that I am
Mhm.
today. And I was also exposed to some great European riders and trainers like Paul Schockmuller, Albert Vorn. These were all people that were in my daily life, and whether
Mhm.
it was directly working with them on a day-to-day basis with my riding, or just watching them or being around them, or their comfort level with me as a horse show kid.
Right.
So that was a huge factor.
Mm-hmm.
In my operation, Lee and Erica McKeever, who most of the people in the sport will know very, very well. They're the true geniuses behind what we do here at Castle Hill. They've been with my family 32 years. They are the very best at what they do, and they've been a massive part of our success.
Of course.
We wouldn't have reached where we are without them. And then, obviously all the sponsors, all the people who, large and small, have contributed to owning horses, believing in me. People like Hunter Harrison and Harry Gill, the Sweeneys and Dolans. The list goes on and on. We've got some great new owners and Susan Heller and Marilla Van Buren. So I've never had any shortage of people believing in my dream and it becoming our dream.
Nice.
That's been a real special journey. And people who really have gone above and beyond to make some wonderful horses available to me. And I would say the last and probably the most influential figure has been Francois Matty. He was my dad's partner for over 28 years. Francois is about 30 years older than me. But we have this incredible relationship where I went to work for him in the early 90s. And, now I can be with him in a car for 11 hours and it's, like two guys in their 20s trying to find that superstar behind a tree somewhere, So, I think these people for sure would stand out and my successes are their successes. But there's been an endless list of people who have contributed large and small.
Let's talk about what separates you from the pack. You are known for a couple things, three things that I think everybody can point out. One is your classical American forward style of riding. Two is your focus. Everyone, admires your focus, and that's very apparent. And three would be your attention to detail. You're very particular, you're very specific, detail-oriented person. Would you say, what would be the two things that separate you and has gotten you to the top? And maybe I probably missed something here. What separates Mclain Ward from the pack?
Well, I think, I've been able to mix a phenomenal education in riding and training of horses with a competitive, detail-oriented tenacity. And I've been surrounded by the best. I've been surrounded by the best horses, which comes from having the best supporters. I've been surrounded by the best teachers and trainers and horsemen in the world, which, adds to your education and your wealth of knowledge. Mm-hmm. And the best people within my organization from the beginning. And I believed in them and they believed in me. It's not been always an easy journey, but it's a journey that we were committed to each other to be on. And listen, in the last 15 years also, my wife has been added to that, who's Lauren's brought another facet to our family and to what we do, and only made things better, and been able to step up and help me in ways where I had weaknesses, and so I think all of these people, I've always believed if you're around the best people and you can organize things, that you have a single vision, you're going to have some level of success. That's what we love. And, you notice in this time, Jay, and I remember I also thought about this back in 2012 very, very keenly when I was injured. Now, when we've had these long gaps of rest, and, I have a beautifully blessed life. I have a life that people would say, I will get to this point and we'll retire and enjoy everything. But I like the chase. The prize is there, and that's right. Nice. And we all like a nice quality of life. But what inspires me, what gives me energy, what makes me happy is the chase. And I think that's a big difference. When I hear people talk about the end of their career, retirement, I get a bit uncomfortable. I don't want it to end. And I think that keeps you seeking every day and trying to better yourself and be the best that you can
be. Right. Yes. Yeah. That drive. And I don't think that drive is let up in you at all. I certainly, you're still have that competitive fire, and that's showing in the ring. And I don't think you're slowing down anytime soon. by the looks of it.
No, I would agree, and at this point in my career, it's also going to different outlets, particularly with teaching and coaching a couple of really top class athletes, I mean, top championship riders themselves over the last decade. That focus and energy has been shared with them, and that's been a great source of pride for me. As well as those students. I wouldn't even call them students, because these are people that would be successful in this sport in any walk of life, with or without me and their team. But it's given me a great deal of energy and zest for staying at the top of the sport. So that's been a real pleasure as well.
One win or one accomplishment that you've did, and it can go, I don't know if it was on ponies or, I mean, you won medal finals. What stands out?
I did not win medal in Mclean finals. I won USCT finals. I was talking with Missy Clark the other day, and I still haven't let a Mclean finals go. I was second, and then she trained the winner. And she says, "Mclean, you got to let it go." I said, "I can't. I just can't let it go."
Well, that might be my next question. Was going to be, what's your biggest disappointment in riding? So maybe we've already got there. What's your biggest? The one moment that you're like, that stands out, and I know that's a tough one. You've won a few classes, but what stands out above the rest?
Yeah, it is a tough one, because there've been so many incredible moments. As I said earlier, I love the fight, right? I love to be in the trench and be in the jump off, or be in the second round of a championships, Nations Cup. It's really what I live for from a sport point of view. And look, there's also some great accomplishments that maybe aren't so obvious to people. I've had a career that's had some incredible highs, but it's had some very deep lows and some very difficult moments. And sometimes simply, returning from a setback or overcoming something that was a bigger obstacle than anybody imagined in my own mind. It hasn't been all easy and roses, and I woke up and it was all fun. It's been a struggle at times. So there's been certain moments in my career where I've fought back from adversity. I would say probably a little bit because it's so close in time, to be able to pull off what we did in Tryon. I had a coach, Adrian Sternlick, who made that team, which was really she really broke a glass ceiling from her background in the sport, and contributed beautifully to that accomplishment. I felt that there was a lot of pressure on me in that particular team and championships, to be able to pull that off on our home soil. That was a pretty incredible moment in sport, and for my family and the people around me personally.
Right. Yeah, that was, and it was a bit of an unexpected comeback that you guys made, and certainly the home crowd. I think competing at home in a team event, that in itself is such a special, and so to come up with a gold medal in that atmosphere, it's perfect moment.
No, it was a great thing. That was a championships that had some setbacks from a production point of view. The world wasn't looking so fondly on what we were doing there in the United States, and I just felt that there was a lot of pressure on the Americans to put on a great sporting event, and to be able to pull it off and win that, I felt was a huge contribution. There was a few other medals I felt like I was dragged along on the coattails by some greater riders than me at the time. So,
well, you've had a few good teammates for sure along the way.
Absolutely,
and that's what makes it happen. Your biggest disappointment in your riding, and again, there's been a lot of them, and you've overcome, and it's a fantastic job with what you've done. But what do you feel was the one that hit you the hardest?
Well, when these questions are asked, again, there's people are always looking for a specific, right? A day, on May 15th, Sunday, and like the answer to the other question, and I get often asked now a little bit what I think about my legacy, and I always say first, look, that's making me feel a little older than I am. I'm not quite there yet.
Not there yet.
But I would say, when I think about how I want to be remembered in the sport, is I've made a lot of missteps. I've made a lot of mistakes. I've had great days and I've had bad days, but I've always fought harder and tried to be better the next day. And I hope that's how people reflect when they look at my career as a rider and a trainer, as a competitor, and whatever else I do later on down the road. If I've got to pick a specific, 2014 WEG with Rothschild, what that horse accomplished in his career was against the odds. He was by no means conventional. He would not have been a horse that would have seen success in many programs. And frankly, he only saw success in my program because of my father's influence. My father saw the quality and the competitiveness in that horse, and he believed in him always, and contributed hugely to how that horse was produced. That horse to go on and win the gold medal at the Pan Am Games, and then to win a bronze medal team and be fifth individually by less than a fault at the WEG, really was. Nobody would have put $1 on that. Nobody would have bet on that, other than my dad. Maybe
that's your dad. He believed in that horse the whole time. Nobody else did, including you, but he did.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it was the last. I get a little emotional. It was the last horse that he was really a major part of in my career. And I think that was the last year of the Final Four. And we make a lot of arguments pro and con on the Final Four, and I think the reality is it probably had to go away for a lot of reasons. But the pro arguments of the Final Four at the World Championships were that was going to be interesting to see people deal with that horse. That was going to be what that test was designed for. And I think it would have been an incredible moment to watch and see. And that was a disappointment. I felt that the horse deserved it. I felt everybody around me did an incredible job to pull off that result. And to be honest, we were just a little bit unlucky not to make that Final Four.
Yeah, absolutely. As far as disappointments go, the Olympics this year, that you obviously would have been a favorite to be on the team. And it does look like that's still going to happen, of course. But, the Olympic to prepare for a championships takes so much time, so many months of preparation and years of preparation to really get there. When that word came down that wasn't going to be happening in 2020, tell us how that felt.
Well, I think by the time the decision was made, we had enough time to digest that was probably what was going to happen. It wasn't a shocker, right? When they finally announced that Tokyo was being pushed back, I don't think it came as a surprise. And to be totally candid with you, I'd already moved on in my brain to trying to make decisions and plans for an Olympics a year later.
Okay.
I think particularly for the United States, it might be a blessing. We had every horse that was on the WEG team in 2018 had an injury following the championships. Within several months of the championships, had an injury and had some time off. And those horses were on the way back up, but there were certainly questions whether they'd had enough time to be ready for the Olympic Games. So I think that I looked right away, and this is how my brain works, and I think it goes back to the question of what separates. I'm never a person for very long that says, oh, poor me, the world's against me. I think, okay, well, how do I position myself to be in a better position in a year from now? Were there things, in the short turnover from 2018 to the Olympic Games this year, that maybe I was a little concerned about, that I wasn't quite ready myself. As you say, you build towards the championships, and sometimes, particularly when a championships like Tryon takes so much out of you, energy and physically, and of the horses and of the people around you. 18 months is a quick turnaround to be, basically ready to go to a trials situation or a championship. So, I think it might be a blessing for the United States team. I think we could come back stronger next year. I'm certainly going to look at it that way. For myself and the people that I guide, we're not moping about it. We're trying to make decisions to be in a better place come next July.
Well, certainly you and the team will be medal contenders in Tokyo, and we look forward to watching you there.
Thank
2020.
you. And look, not to leave the topic, but the amazing thing about the sport now is that there's a lot of medal contenders. You see in London, the favorites didn't make the second round. So, that shows the strength of the sport throughout the world. And you know what? You got to keep pushing every day to be the best.
Yes. Yeah. No, the team competition is amazing. And unfortunately, we won't get into how the team situation is going to look a little bit different over there. But I think everyone is hopeful and optimistic that it is going to work out for the best with a different format. And I'm sure, knowing you will do everything you can to take advantage of the different system and setup that they have.
Yeah. It's the format that we're gonna face, and as you say, there could be hours of debate about what's better. But it's the format that it's going to be, and same mindset. How are we gonna handle that format in the best way?
Absolutely. So 2020's been everyone knows what's been going on with the pandemic and the situation in the world. You're a leader in your industry. People look up to you. Your name is known around the world as a top equestrian. You're a megastar. How do you feel your responsibilities are as Mclain Ward to lead people through this time and to help them to get through it and to move forward and be positive and look ahead to the future?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, that's a very important question and a personal question, on a lot of levels, or at least I look at it in a personal way. I always try in everything I do to, first off, look at, my actions or how I conduct myself is what I believe, right? Or what I appreciate and how I believe things. And I look at my own family here, the team of people around me, my staff, the people who work with me, when we first talk about the pandemic and, before you get into the political situations that are going on and in particular in our country, I want to make sure that our business is sustainable, that my employees feel comfortable, that they have work, and that we can weather a decent storm here financially. These people really, give, their life to what becomes our mutual goal, but what starts out as my goal.
Right.
And that's not lost on me. And the time and the effort, not only, the McKeevers, who are very well known around the world, for their work, but everybody in my organization currently, or has been over the years. We have I think an incredible reputation of being a phenomenal place to be part of the team. So I think when the pandemic hit, my first reaction was, how am I going to make sure that my family is safe and comfortable? How am I going to make sure my team is safe and comfortable? And how are we going to get through that crisis? With as few ill effects as possible. If I'm honest on that scenario, I'm so blessed that our life is pretty good here. We're on a farm, we're not in an apartment. We work with animals every day. We were lucky enough. We took my daughter and Lauren and I went to a petting zoo today, and I said to Lauren on the way home, I said, the only animal we don't have at the farm is the emu. So my girls are growing up in a pretty blissful existence, and I try to remember that. When we talk about obviously the hotbed issues, the Black Lives Matter, the police killing the other day. It's a tough time in the United States. It's a confusing time. It's a tough time to navigate when you look at your own personal beliefs on culture and government and civil rights. Mm-hmm. And if I'm honest, I'm struggling with those answers myself. I don't know. I mean, yes, the obvious things, we all can see that that's completely unacceptable. What happened in our country the other day in Minnesota with the cops and George Floyd. I mean, these are obvious things. I don't see anybody saying different. The way forward and how to make things better. I don't have the answers, and and I've been a little reserved about making too many public statements about it because I'm struggling and confused myself, and right. Hoping that we find a way forward that we can feel comfortable with, and all of the people of our country, and for that matter the world, can feel that it's going in a good direction and the system isn't against them, and certainly that they're not in fear inappropriately for their life. So, these are complicated questions. And while I do make a statement here and there on different subjects on social media, I feel that on this subject, you really have to know exactly either an answers or how you feel, and I'm struggling with that myself, and my family and I talk about it, my friends and I talk about it. It's not on deaf ears here either, but it's a tough time. There's no doubt about it, and I hope as a country, because for me, I know you're Canadian, but for me, America is the greatest place in the world, and I believe still in this country, but we've got some things to sort out, no doubt about it.
It'll get there. And America is the second greatest country in the world, no doubt. And it's a super place, and it'll be back.
Yeah, I mean, you're a little bit cooler in the summer. You don't have the humidity. I agree, but actually, Canada has been very good to me, so I can't complain too much. But people know me in the sport. I'm a very proud American. I'm a very true blue believer of all the great things of this country and the concepts of government in this country and the overall sentiments of what America is about is still, I think, phenomenal.
Right.
In any society, and the world changing as a whole. There's a lot of difficult things that the world is facing, and when these things also come, rapid fire and become, hot spots very quickly, pun intended. The world has trouble processing it and sorting through them and working through them.
And it's a difficult position, because you are a celebrity in your sport, and yet you're a man and a father and a husband, and and trying to navigate that line is tricky. So I think it's great what you're doing, how you're providing that strength for people to look up to and emulate. So
and I'd also say, going back, talking about, you start in life by, taking care and how you and your family act and conduct yourselves and contribute to the world. And then, your organization, your business, whatever things that you're intimately involved in or lead, and then you go out a little bit, say the entire equestrian community.
Right.
And, there's been a lot of discussions about the equestrian community as of late. And, there is no doubt it's a rather wealthy, insulated community. It's not dealing with a lot of the troubles and struggles of much of the world.
Mm-hmm.
But as a community, I also look to the pros. I do think we rally behind less fortunate in our community. I do think we help people who are in crisis, people who have accidents or health issues or financial issues. And I can't think of times in my life where I've seen someone not receive that help and that hand from our community because of their race, sexual orientation, creed, color, or whatever difference we have. I think as a general rule, while we don't have a lot of minorities in our sport, I don't see a lot of people pushing back to help our own community because of these differences. And so I'm proud of that,
Yeah.
And so I think you have to look for how you take care of your own community and then try to expand that out, to the greater world.
Absolutely. Talking about the horse shows and the equestrian community, 5 years from now, you'll still be competing and winning Grand Prix. What do you think the sport's going to look like?
Hope so.
That's the plan. What do you think the sport's going to look like in that time? What direction do you think that it's going? And do you have any ideas on what you would like to see happen?
Well, now we particularly from a business and sport point of view, we talk about pre-pandemic and post-pandemic, right? So I'm going to start with pre-pandemic because I actually think we're going to recover. I'm an optimist, so I think we're going to recover as a world quicker than the naysayers think. I think people will, pull their boots up and get on with it and rebuild their businesses and their situations and their lives. And I think I want to believe that there is going to be a vaccine for this virus sooner than later. And I believe that, that's when the world can start to turn a little bit more, back to the normal, so to speak. The sport before this broke was flying high, right? So it was growing at an incredible rate of speed. The numbers of people participating in, particularly the main three horse sports, jumping, dressage, and eventing, but in horse activities in general. Memberships in every organization were going up. The grassroots people were really, there was a huge movement in the grassroots to bring back that level of equestrian sports. And at the highest level of the equestrian sports, obviously, the sport prize money was growing, in incredible numbers. The amount of riders at top events, the amount of top events every week was staggering. You couldn't follow the results. So, I think the sport and the business was very healthy pre-pandemic. 5 years from now, look, I think there's going to be a little half halt here, obviously. I think the middle of the sport and the industry will take a little longer to recover, probably, than the top end. I think and I've talked about this more recently, I think the sport at the high end has grown so much that there's a place for a slightly higher level series of events. There was some talk a little bit lately about, it should only be professionals at the top events, not the professional amateur, so to speak. And I don't agree with that. I think it's great that people aspire to see how far they can go in their sport, whether they're necessarily making their living riding show jumpers or not. I don't think that should be limited. I think it builds enthusiasm. It certainly builds the business.
Let me interrupt for a sec. So you don't feel that allowing some amateurs into those top elite competitions is going to, this has been said, force the course designers to go a little softer and a little easier on the courses because it's not all top professionals. There's some amateurs involved, right? And I get your thing. I just want to clarify your viewpoint on that because that is a little different than what some people have been saying.
Well, I think it should be a little bit of a free market, right? So when you talk 5-star level, I think if you should go down the ranking list to bring the best riders that are available to come. And that's why I think actually we have an opportunity for either a 6-star level or a Grand Slam level where you had 8 or 10 events a year, which were the best in every category. I actually think the events should compete to be in this series, and that can change over time. It can be updated so that different events can come and go if they are stepping up their game. And I think because those events are going to be so special, it's going to bring the very best from all over the world, which will naturally then bring the best riders together. Right. I think it's very difficult to mandate, well, you can come, but you can't, even though you're, there's top riders in the top 10 that, run a company outside of a horse business, so we're going to say, well, you don't actually make your living, you start to get into a very gray area. And I think it's discouraging. I think that if you had this series of 8 or 10 events every year that were the best in every category that we would judge an event by, you're going to draw the best from all corners of the world. And the natural selection, so to speak, will provide a situation where you have the best riders with the best horses and the best sporting event for the audience and the sponsors.
Yeah. I agree 100% with that, and so it's great to hear that viewpoint shared.
Going back on your course, I did a webcast a few weeks ago with 2 great course designers, which I think you saw,
that.
A little bit of. Yeah.
And
I love the courses and talking about all the history of the sport, and there is no doubt that there are certain elements, the materials lighter, safety cups, possibly less natural obstacles, which really test bravery. But I also think that has a lot to do with the image of our sport in the general public. You had 30 years ago in Calgary, all professional riders competing at the Masters, but the image of our sport, we no longer, and rightfully so, no longer find it acceptable for a horse to be falling through a fence or falling on the backside of a jump. So we need to change as what we find acceptable from the horse welfare point of view has changed, and we need to change with that. And And I think you're seeing that reflected in the courses. It's not just because there are some professional amateurs doing the sport at a high level.
Well, I will point out, though, Pierre Durand, and I remember him very well because he rode my favorite horse of all time, Japalou. I mean, that's my number one horse of all time. If there was one horse I could put on, that would be him. So, and he was very much an amateur. I believe he was a lawyer, full-time lawyer. And he was, at that time competing and winning, and did a great job. So I do think there is some history of that in the sport, and I do think it's important to maintain that moving forward as well. I think that's part of our story. That's part of our history. And those are great stories. No, we don't want to get rid of those.
And I don't think those should be the reasons to exclude someone from having the opportunity to compete at that level. If they're good enough, they should be able to go. For sure, with the amount of 5-star events we have around the world, which may be a little bit checkered in this post-pandemic time because of economics. But, I think every one of those 5-stars should bring the best, 40 or 50, I think it's 50 riders that are available. But I think you have a moment here in the sport to produce a Grand Slam series. And I also think, as you see in other sports like golf and tennis, you see some athletes coming up who really focus on getting up the ranking and hitting multiple events. And then you see some other athletes, particularly a little bit further along in their career, maybe really focus on the championship events, the Grand Slam events.
Yes.
Don't run as hard a schedule, but they need to hit on the day. So I think there's a balance there as well. And I think that's good, personally.
Yeah, those are two. Being number one in the computer rankings and setting up for the championships is definitely two different tasks. Trying to balance those two things, which you've done a very good job of in your career, but trying to balance those two things is very hard. Those computer rankings, staying up there that's a grind.
Yeah, you see people chase, and look, I'm not going to say that being ranked number one in the world wasn't a great accolade and something I was very proud of, and a feather in my cap. But I always said, if I became number one doing it the way I want to do the sport, that's a great thing. I'm never going to do the sport in a different way to become number one. Right. There were other things that were more important to me on the list of accomplishments than that.
So I've asked you some tough questions tonight. You've been candid and straightforward, but now I'm going to put you on the spot. You're in the jump off. There's two of you. Who's the one rider in the world you don't want to face?
There's a few.
I know you name about 20, but I'm going to put it to one.
So well, two things. I remember someone saying, I remember Ian Miller saying this years ago. He said, I don't want to win because John Whittaker, I think Milton was the battle at that time, right? John Whittaker, Milton, Ian Miller, and Big Ben. Yeah. And he said, I don't want to win because John Whittaker isn't in the jump off. I want John Whittaker to go the best he can, and then I want to beat him. So I would say I feel the same. Mm-hmm. But, I got to go with my teammate, Ken Farrington. We have a great friendship and we have a great battle. And I often say, if I notice you in the schooling area, you're doing well in the sport because you're on my mind. If I don't, there's some riders I never see in the schooling area. They're there, but I don't see them. But I think Kent and I are pretty cutthroat competitors, and most nights, after a big competition, no matter who won, we have dinner together. So that's a great rivalry.
Yes, yeah, it is a great rivalry, and you two are great friends, and I think you push each other to new heights, and that's great for the American team, no question. Well, Mclean,
it's great for us too.
So thank you so much. You've been fantastic as always, and I wish you the best of luck. And hello to your wife, and congratulations on your new daughter. And we look forward to seeing you very soon.
Well, Jay, it's been great to be with you. Also, say hello to your girls for me. I saw the great gymnastic the other day. For our viewers, Jay's daughter was doing a gymnastic, and I said, as long as you don't make me do that, I'll be okay. I don't think I can accomplish that one. But these programs are great. We appreciate your effort. It's great for our equestrian community, and it's nice to be able to share some personal thoughts and some sport thoughts as well. And I hope everybody's enjoyed it, and I hope we see an event very soon.
Good. We'll look forward to having you back on the show very soon as well. Thank you.
Anytime.
Thank you. All right, guys, that's our show for tonight. I want to thank Farmvet again for coming on board. They are just such a fantastic company. You know, they put the health of your horse above all else at all times. For equine athletes, when we're looking for supplements, pharmaceuticals, that's the place to go to. So visit farmvet.com, use the code The Jay Duke Show. You'll receive your special coupon and discount, and take care of those wonderful, wonderful animals. And also another shout out to Desert International Horse Park. They've expanded their series this year, so we're looking forward to that. They're working hard on the improvements. The improvements this year at the Desert Horse Park, if there was an award for most improved showgrounds, they definitely won the award. It was outstanding. So looking forward to being back down there this fall at the horse shows and next winter. Thank you so much to Desert International Horse Park. And yes, another thing, they do want to wish everyone a safe return to competition, and they're thanking all the show managers who are working so hard to get the horse shows back on the map for you as competitors. It's a big task, a lot of new guidelines. Running a horse show already was so difficult. Now with this going on, the work they're putting in is amazing. And check it out, though. That's going to be the place to be, and I look forward to seeing you on the showgrounds. We have next week on Jumping Instructors Network, guest Amy Center joins Laura Kellen May on Wednesday at 1 o'clock Eastern. And on Friday, June 19th, host Randy Thompson has Susan Harris of Centered Riding, which will be a very, very interesting show. And next Monday, I have a health and wellness show. There's special guests Danny Conway and Sharon Klassen coming on. We're going to show you how to be the healthiest rider you can be. And that's something we didn't touch on tonight with Mclean, but looking after yourself is a huge topic these days. And, you know, we're athletes just like your horses are, and we're going to show you how to do that next week on the Jay Duke Show. Thank you for watching, and remember, ride safely and always respect the horse.